just a very short background about myself. I'm trained as a school social worker, and most of my clinical practice experience has been in crisis intervention and group facilitation with youth, adolescents, and adults. So I'm excited to be with you all in this learning community, and we'll get started. We're going to build off of our past conversations and recap what burnout looks like in an organization, and then move towards a conversation of how we overcome burnout by talking about how we identify, the importance of employee wellness in our organizations. So we're going to start by discussing the culture of burnout in organizations. That has been our focus. We've talked about burnout culture in the past 2 sessions, and so we'll just kind of overview what it looks like in the organization. So what creates a culture of burnout? And you can put this in the chat here. We can hear from others as well. Right, turnover, we're seeing, widespread increased mental health needs, physical health needs from our clients. What else? Long hours, yes, okay, perfect. Seeing burnout as well. Yeah, that workload you all talked about, feeling, it sounds like a lot of this, okay, overcompensating. So that turnover is leading to folks doing the job of more than one person. You're having trouble keeping up with the needs of the communities you're serving, and also this kind of dual tension of recognizing folks as, okay, system issues, right, of not having enough behavioral or health staff in the organization, folks feeling, kind of worn down or exhausted from maintaining these increased workloads too. Great. So you guys are hitting on exactly that. A culture of burnout is caused by many things. You're hitting on some systemic issues, right, around how the culture of an organization, increase workload and all of those. And the culture in our organizations too, right, starts with those leaders and kind of trickle down to other employees. So we want a sense of value in our organization, right, to align with our employees' values too. So you want to connect rather than a disconnect between those. So without a sense of community, in the organization, employees may feel like they don't belong or they're not supported. So we want to see how our employees can have autonomy, right? When this is stripped away from them, when they feel like they don't have a sense of control or input in the workplace, that could create, an unwell or unhealthy culture. So they might feel, I'm hearing, this is right on a lot of your examples here. We see, lack of appreciation, the high demands of workload, whether or not they're involved in that decision-making process in the environment of the organization. And if we don't recognize or appreciate employees, they might not feel that they are doing a good job or are doing enough. So creating an atmosphere, that's stressful or overwhelming or unsupportive can lead to a culture of burnout in the organization, right? And because employees could then become unmotivated, could also become anxious or increasingly stressed by their workload, this could have an impact on the whole workplace as well. So in addition to that, inequality, such as folks receiving differential treatment of employees by a host of identities could also make the workplace, uncomfortable for individuals too. So when we add inequality on top of a stressful or an unmotivated environment, that could perpetuate, a culture of burnout in organizations. So just to recap too, just very quickly, you all have hit on a lot of the symptoms and kind of reasons, contributors to burnout you saw in your own organizations. So there are the 5 stages of burnout. This first stage is honeymoon, right? Folks are happy, they're enthusiastic about joining a new organization. They may be experiencing kind of a little nervous stress on the job as they get started. And then a second stage begins where the employee rate starts to notice some more challenges, persistent challenges that are kind of, on top of one another. And this can lead to the onset of that larger, stress, ongoing stress. So during this stage, life may be becoming more about work and taking care of business than their family and social aspects, right, and personal needs. And then more stress symptoms could appear, right, as they're having increased workload in their environment, and then could also be, falling behind in that work family context. So then our employees go into the third stage where if they haven't learned, positive coping skills at this point, that chronic stress starts to develop and then can lead to frustration from our employees. They can start to feel like they have a lack of control in the organization, even possibly, in their day-to-day workload. This can affect their feeling and sense of, self-efficacy and efficiency too in the work that they're doing. And then as you all hit on as well, if they're not, receiving maybe not rewards, but right, acknowledgement, appreciation, they may begin to feel inadequate or not good enough in the role they have. And then that cues, the stage we've been talking about a lot of burnout. So in this one, in burnout, right, they feel trapped in their position. They may start to detach from, other employees, from the organization, beginning to isolate themselves from others too. They may seem, uninterested in the workplace. And then this leads to that final stage of burnout, which is habitual burnout. This is when employees start to feel like they're just going through the motions, right? They're at work, but maybe they're not present and engaging in the work they're doing. And these symptoms of burnout then start to become really apparent and prominent. So they're maybe physically and mentally exhausted. That's taking a toll with this chronic stress they're experiencing as well. And this can then prompt employees too to leave our organizations, right? This could be a contributor to the turnover that we're seeing. So what are some ways, that we've discussed in the past couple trainings, right, that you all can start to think about preventing our employees from reaching that habitual burnout point? What are some of the things you might think of that we could do? Okay, I'm seeing the chat. Increase, leadership style, right? Providing check-ins. I see one-on-one coaching too. Yes, talking about burnout. And that was my follow-up too. You guys have already started to recognize what some of those symptoms and kind of signs of burnout might be. So you can begin looking for those in individuals, right, in your organization, and start having that top-down or bottom-up distribution of these conversations too around burnout. So with that, kind of pivoting here from burnout, and we want to move from burnout to think about how we can improve employee wellness and resiliency as well, so we can keep these folks within our organizations. So overcoming a culture of burnout starts by identifying the importance of employee wellness. So before we jump into all this talk about wellness, what it is, let's hear from a couple folks. What does wellness mean to you, and why might it be important for you? Okay, feeling safe, supported. Yes, that physical safety, folks that's a part of our wellness. Mental, spiritual wellness. So these different dimensions that we can experience wellness in. Perfect. Yeah, so these are all great examples. There's 8 dimensions of wellness. So starting at the top of the circle with social and kind of moving clockwise, not crosswise, clockwise across this wheel here. So that social dimension is about maintaining healthy relationships, right? So maybe this is enjoying being with others, folks developing friendships and other types of relationships, caring about others, providing services, right, to others, and kind of contributing to this larger sense of community. And then the intellectual dimension of wellness is about expanding knowledge or skills. This also includes kind of discovering the potential for sharing your skills or gifts with others. So this might, folks who have wellness right in this dimension could be being curious about everything, that feeling there is a lifelong learning aspect, that they can grow. And then physical and emotional, right? These might come to us more easily when we think about wellness, where the physical dimension is about caring for your body, right? Staying healthy now into the future. And that emotional component is about understanding and respecting your feelings, these values, attitudes, experiences, And this can include our interactions with others too. So that sense of being appreciated by others, communicating our own recognition and appreciation to other individuals, managing emotions that folks, we might have across different contexts in a constructive way, feelings of positivity or enthusiasm about our life and roles too. And then this environmental dimension is about understanding how that social aspect, natural and other environments that we engage in can affect our health and well-being, right? So this could be the physical like climate that you're involved in, effects of daily habits on your physical environment, and demonstrating like a commitment to healthy planets as well. And then we're kind of coming into the tail end of the dimension. So in addition to, feeling that social wellness, physical and emotional, financial is also a dimension of wellness where folks, their resources are well managed, they're living within their means, they can make informed financial decisions and investments, include setting realistic goals, preparing for short and long-term needs. And this kind of ties into what you all brought up too around safety. There's financial security, physical security that can make folks feel well in those dimensions. And then occupational is also a part of wellness too. So this is preparing for and participating in a work environment where the employee gets personal satisfaction, right, and life enrichment from their engagement within their organization, with the client populations they work with. In this dimension, this occupational wellness too, it really talks about goals of the organization aligning with the individual. So the values they hold, the type of lifestyle that they prioritize as well is kind of reflected in their organization or in the work they engage in. So it's important in order for this dimension to be, met, the work has to be personally meaningful and rewarding to the individual. And this also deals with individuals feeling that they're contributing, knowledge, their unique skills and talents really to a larger outcome. A lot of us work in behavioral health and health settings where they're really working towards helping different populations meet those mental health concerns, health concerns. And then lastly, spiritual is also a dimension of wellness, which can involve finding one's purpose or value or meaning in life more broadly, and participating again in activities that are consistent with their values and beliefs. So when we have that alignment within the individual in these dimensions of wellness and the organization, that can bring a sense of self and satisfaction to the individual in the work they're engaging in. So as the U.S. Surgeon General kind of has reported here, if healthcare providers are not well, it's hard for them to heal the people whom they're caring for, right? So not only is it important for individual well-being, right, for these wellness dimensions to be met, but it can impact our larger lives and organizations and the work that we're doing for our patients and clients. So with that, let's talk about employee wellness. Many of us witness or experience trauma every day, and these experiences can make us susceptible, to fear, to anxiety, to exhaustion and stress. And that exposure to stress really alters the function of our brain, right? If fear is involved, it can also affect mood or emotional regulation, our cognitive performance. I mentioned like efficacy, efficiency, right, with what we're doing. It could impact our decision making too. And for experiencing stress over short periods of time, we might be able to adapt, in the moment. But for some of us, if we are experiencing stress just persistently, right, ongoing after the situation, it can be harder to respond to. So this is why wellness of our employees is important. So employee wellness includes all of those different 8 dimensions, right? So mental, physical, that emotional sense of security and safety, financial health of your employees, and it can impact the organization in a lot of different ways. Interactions between colleagues, interactions between our employees and the client populations that we're serving. And it can really create a chain reaction too, right? In both a positive and a negative way. So when we focus on wellness of our employees, it's not only going to increase, a sense of well-being within our workplace and our organization, and maybe a greater sense of community. It can also have some output changes too. So that could lead to increased productivity in our organization. This could impact, for the positive physical and emotional health of our employees. It can also help our employees manage stress when they have colleagues to rely on and feel supported by their supervisors and leaders, as well as coworkers. And it can improve efficiency and outcomes for our clients too. And then there is a financial component for organizations too. It saves organizations money when we don't have to account as much for turnover in organization, for that time that you spend onboarding folks to a new system, organization. So there's a lot that can be gained by helping support our employees and being well. Yes, positive patient, results. It can lead to different treatment outcomes, likelihood of continuing in treatment too. And I'm sure all of you feel too, we want to come to work when we know that we're going to be appreciated in that organization, that the work we're doing on the day-to-day matters, not just for our clients as individuals, but as making widespread change too. So how do we actually cultivate employee wellness? Kind of regardless of our training, our backgrounds, and our personal strengths, we're all, humans. We're affected by pain, loss, and stress. And this is because no matter how tough we are, when we're faced with persistent, stress and exhaustion, it can really have a toll on us. But the good news is we can help ourselves and our employees reduce the risk of burnout and some of these long-term negative consequences, maybe turnover, switching professions, leaving the organization, by increasing employee wellness. So what we're going to talk about today, we're really going to focus first on this need to practice our own self-care, and then also talk about how we encourage our employees to look at self-care too. So, we might think of self-care, as simple things of eating, sleeping, resting and recuperating from, the woes of everyday life. We're also going to get into self-care in more of a deeper description here, not just a one-time kind of event, right, of treating yourself by going to the spa, getting that favorite meal, spending quality time with family, but more so the practice of self-care, where it's more about intentionally creating space, time, awareness of how you are, taking inventory of how you're doing in those different dimensions. So emotionally, physically, your sense of social connection and supports. And so this second bullet, right, piggybacks on the first one. It is self-care does include, making the time to fully rest and recover. This is especially important too, as a lot of you have talked about this virtual dimension of telehealth. And I know a lot of folks during this time too have kind of felt the work goes home with individuals, right? It extends beyond the workplace. If you're a part of a profession that's on call too, it might be hard to find separate time to fully rest and recover. And so third, as leaders, we can help with this by creating a community, a culture within our organizations and workplaces where this is prioritized. And as some of you have even mentioned too, where we're having these conversations and kind of acknowledging what might have been the undertone or the unspoken aspect before of the physical and emotional exhaustion we can feel, and really bringing that to the forefront of our conversations and recognizing, our employees for what they are as humans too in this work. And so fourth, self-care is also going to involve monitoring and, early detection of those possible problems, recognitions for signs in ourselves and others of that exhaustion and burnout, maybe sleep disturbances, increased alcohol intake, feelings of hopelessness or helplessness. And then also this involvement, right, of asking for help or not ignoring these signs too. So maybe noticing this within coworkers, or we recognize it within ourselves. We witness and experience a lot of challenging situations, and it's okay to seek help and services too. So listening to colleagues about what they may be struggling with, what aspects of the work or their life, are taking a toll as well. So thank you again for taking time to be with us today, and we'll see you next week.